and then also I will put everybody mute. So if you have any question, please let me know. I mean, raise your hand. Yeah, because yeah, we have many. They I'm kind of conflict that, you know, I mean, what I mean is this. I feel like I need to teach still more than spend more time for to think while I'm teaching. I want to give you more time to think about it, like I just mentioned about that the whether Bible is above the church and or the churches of the Bible. That's a very critical issues, and that's a major differences between what the Roman Catholics view and the Reformers view. And then from that, the theology is so different. And then how these different two theologies, they shaped by the Enlightenment, and then also the rational, and yeah, of course, the Enlightenment brought the rationalism, and then also at the 30 years war, the nationalism also affected, and then so it's a challenge. It is a, you know, the nationalism is challenged not only the Roman Catholics, the Protestant as well. And also, I would like to spend more time for the awakening, great awakening in first and the second awakening in America. Many people, I think that mainline think that the America, the spirit is a Puritan spirit, and the Puritanism they cleansed America and developed America to be a Christian country. But I will, you know, share with you, and then I want you to really think about it and make a decision whether this is a Puritanism or Great Awakenings. Who cleans the mess of America? Yeah, these things. And the American, the Christianity was shaped by the politics, and then so the military forces, and then that's the whole mess. And how this mess and who clean and how clean, this is amazing. And I also saw that, you know, like in the Genesis, the Jacob's family whole mess because his mom Rebecca was a partiality. She loves first son, I mean the second son more than the first son, and the Isaac loves Esau, and then Jacob deceived. So then the kind of deceiving spirit inherited to the whole family, and their children, the whole mess. And who cleans it? How cleans it? God chose that the Joseph and cleans up, right? And then make a Judah repented. Yeah. So I think that this is a really, you know, some people think that where is God? But I can see clearly with this mess, inside the whole mess, there is God who controls and cleans up. So when you see that the church history, this is so mess, where is God? But as you see, even God, we couldn't see, we cannot touch it, but God controls everything. And eventually, God leads. Yeah, so you will see that. I hope that you can find out instead of I try to persuade you. Yeah. Today, conversion area, yeah. Okay, today, chapter 8, the Reformation in Great Britain, America. Yeah. There are some overlaps. So when we covered many parts of the England, so I will skip whenever we touched it before. Yeah, until 7th century, Great Britain was divided in two kingdoms: House of Tudor and the Stuart Kingdom of Scotland. And these, they are one family. And then they, like brothers, they, okay, you take Scotland, okay, I take, England, that kind of stuff. And as time passed, these two brothers' country, they fight each other, especially the religion. When the Reformation was the key factor to divide and then against each other. And so let's see. Henry III, the Tudor dynasty, started in 1485 when Henry VIII became king until 1603. So they ruled what? Almost 180 years. I know, 100 20 years, something like that. And people in Tudor times were very religious and were prepared to die for their beliefs. Yeah, they are very dedicated to the religion. However, there were major changes in the church during the reign of the Tudor king and the queens. England started as a Catholic country and ended up being a Protestant one under the Tudors. When we see that the first Tudor king came to the throne, England was a Roman Catholic country, and the head of the church was the Pope in Rome, Clement VII. However, when Henry VIII came to the throne, he was a devout Catholic and defended the church against the Protestant. You know that Henry, right? His older brother was King Arthur. King Arthur was a really legendary, really good king. I don't know whether this is real true or not, but in the story, he was a really excellent, legendary, the king, but he died very early. So his brother Henry became a king, and then he married to his brother's wife. And so this is like a political marriage to keep his, position and secure to his position, right? Because Catherine was the empress family, and also relative of a pope too. Yeah. Henry split of the England because he want to divorce her, because they have 6 children, but all of them die young except one. So, oh, really, I should marry the other woman, but I married to my brother's wife. That's why God punished me like that way. But again, I told you before that he has another woman already. And now he separated from the Rome and declared that he is the supreme head of the new Church of England. So he is like a Pope of England. And his religion is the same doctrine, but it changed the name, Church of England. Same doctrine as the Catholic. And despite being cut off from the Roman Rome, England retained much of the doctrine. Yeah, it wasn't until Henry's son Edward VI. Edward VI was Henry's another wife's son. He was raised in the Protestant background. So when he became a king, he changed national religion to Protestant. And of course, automatically put down the Roman Catholics. Yeah. After he died in 1553, his half-sister and daughter of Henry III and Queen of the Aragon. Yeah. So Mary, she is the only survivor out of 6. She became a queen. Of course, her mother side is a Spanish kings, Spanish emperor and the pope, and then also dedicated the Catholic. So Mary had been always Catholic, so she oppressed the reformers and the promoter Catholic. Because her father divorced, so she is now qualified to be a queen. So as soon as this is a political matter. She married to that the Spain Prince Philip II, who was her cousin. Yeah, I don't know whether they really love it or not, but yeah, by politics. And then also he was she tried to be nice with Emperor Charles V. Yeah, and of course that she submitted to the Pope to gain the authority and power, and she killed 300 Protestants, so called the Bloody Mary. And we learned that Elizabeth, after she died, Elizabeth tried to be neutral. The emperor asked the Mary, you must get rid of Elizabeth because Elizabeth, she could turn to Protestant. You must get rid of her, but she could not. And after she died, Elizabeth became a queen. Yeah, and she tried to be neutralized. And toward the end of the Elizabeth's reign, the Puritan movement started. You know that what the Puritan comes from, right? The England, because it was a state church, and the people saw that this is not biblical. Church and state must be separated, and our church is completely corrupted, so we must purify it. It's not any concise or organized Christian group, but those just people who want to purify their church. That's a Puritan we called. So it's not it's not formed yet in Elizabeth's time, but there is some movement there. Reformation in Scotland. Knox and his story. From the 1520s, the idea of Martin Luther began to have influence in Scotland with Lutheran literature circulating in the East Coast. In 1525, Parliament banned their importation. So in 1528, the nobleman Patrick Hamilton, or we have a Pastor Patrick, and here in America, England and America, they observe the St. Patrick's Day. Here, the Patrick Hamilton, who had been influenced by the Lutheran theology, became a first Protestant martyr in Scotland. After he was killed, and then more people uprised. In 1546, George Wishart, a preacher who had come under the influence of Swiss reformer Wildrich Zwingli, which is very radical. Yes, one hand you have a Bible, the other hand you must have a sword. Yeah, it's like a Muslim. And he was arrested and then burned in the street. But his supporters, because of the bishop, ordered Sevilla Cardinal Beaton, and then so they assassinated Cardinal Beaton, and the war broke out. And so the Scotland asked the Franks, so French forces come and they put all the rebels down, and somehow Chaplain John Knox, he was condemned and arrested, but somehow he come out from there. And make long story short, he went to the Switzerland and came back, and then he went again. He was not, a second time, he was not really life threatened, but he went to the Switzerland, and then he met John Calvin. He attended John Calvin's church, and wow, he was really shocked. Yeah, and then so he learned from John Calvin actually Calvinism, right? So he brought the Calvinism, and he started a church in Scotland. That's the start of the Presbyterian Church. Yeah, of course, I told you before that they removed the position of the bishop, and I mean replaced the bishop to the presbyter. So that's why I call the Presbyterian Church. Yeah. So again, if you have any question, please raise your hand. Chapter 9, further development within Lutheranism. The War of Smalkalden. Yeah, we covered this. So if you have any question, please let me know. I will, otherwise I just a few words of that. Yeah. In 1521, died Worms Emperor Charles V and Martin Luther banned, and they have another debate, and actually the Pope and Charles V tried to get rid of the Luther, but Luther now have a lot of followers. Yeah, so actually now that the Frederick Wise, he always protect the Luther, right? So he created a Smalkalden League with some of the noble families, so they local lords against the Emperor Charles. So Emperor Charles also against the Spanish army, gathered the Spanish army, and of course he has a German army too, and the Netherlands, and then prepare war against the Smalkaldic League. The war broke out, and the Smalkaldic League occupied several Catholic ruled cities, but eventually Emperor got a victory. So the Frederick Wise was killed. And the emperor dictated the Augsburg interim to prepare the reintegration of the Protestant into Catholic. So after he put the war down, this Augsburg interim is that all the Protestants must be put down, not just the Luther, all of them. Try. And this time, the Protestant princes, they get it together and then fight against Charles V. And this time, the King Henry II of France joined that. And so Charles V ran away. So after that war, Lutheran Reformation theology spread the whole Europe without emperors intervene. Yeah, because emperor ran away. Yeah. Shortly after the death of the Luther in 1546, Pope Paul III entered into the agreement with the Holy Roman Emperor Charles V. Charles V lasted a long time, reigned a long time. And these agreements stipulate that Charles would go to war against everyone who opposed the Council of Trent. The Council of Trent said what? Make a long story short, this is kind of a systematic persecution of the Protestant. So the Charles and the Pope agree that all the Protestants are our enemy. So the Christians fight each other, right? It's so sad, but this is the church history in Europe. The Council of the Trent held between 1545 and 1565. They met frequently, and then how to put the Protestant down. That's about it. Scandinavian Lutheranism. At the beginning of the 16th century, Scandinavia consists of two kingdoms. One was made of the Norway and Denmark, and the other Sweden and Finland. They both loosely belonged to same confederation, the Union of the Kalmar, which disintegrated at the time of the Reform movement. So in the beginning, I told you that the Holy New Roman Empire is ruled by the Germans. So all these are the Germans. But Germans has a lot of tribes. So they are the same blood, actually. Yeah. So now do have the loosened relationship. Then now the religion came, and the Lutheranism soon became the main religion and favored the constitution of national churches, which could each retain the use of its own language. So this Scandinavian is kind of doesn't have much war because of religion. Denmark, whether you're surprised or not, I mean, this is surprisingly, Denmark empire was pretty big in the beginning. Now it's a small country, but yes. Lutheranism was introduced by Hans Tausen, a former monk who had been a student of Luther's Wittenberg. It took hold in 1523 in the reign of the Frederick I. Yeah. In 1530, a specifically Lutheran confession of faith, the importance of the justification by faith. Again, this is a very important, the differences between the Roman Catholic theology and the Reformed theology, right? The Roman Catholic believe the church is above all, and church has authority to give a salvation. So come to the church and work for the church, and then you own your salvation, complete your salvation. And the Reformer said, no, Bible, read the Bible. Bible surely said that in Romans, we are justified not because we become a righteous person, but even though we are sinner, but because we believe in Jesus and we acknowledge that we must be punished. But so I accept Jesus as personal Savior, and because of this faith, I'm justified to enter the kingdom of God. And that's what the Reformers' position. And Roman Catholics say, no, church give it. Not by your faith, but a church give. Church determined whether you are saved or not. So, later on they sell the indulgence, right? Yeah. So does it make sense? Yeah. So that that kind of theory, the church is above everything. If that theory is denied, Roman Catholic cannot stand. So how the theology is important. It's very critical. How it was however, it was in the reign of the third king Christian III that the main principles of a Lutheran Reformation movement were officially imposed on population. In this way, the national religion of Denmark became a Lutheranism. And Christian IV succeeded in 1596. He followed in his father's steps as a strict Lutheran. He forbade the Jesuits, who had become fervent supporters of the counter-reform movement, from entering Denmark, and all Catholic priests were banned. So Denmark in the early age, early 1596, so in late 16th century, already become a Lutheran, the Protestant country. Norway was under the Danish control. Yeah, Norway was actually they are one country and controlled by the Denmark. Yeah, the region, but later on they did independent. For this reason, Lutheran was an important country in 1537 as Denmark. The Catholics were banned, and then it's replaced Latin in liturgy. However, the poorer part of the population did not welcome these changes. Yeah. So even the Norway, now the national religion is a Lutheran, but not all of them are converted to be a Lutheran. So many of them still in a rural place. They are loyal to the Roman Catholic tradition until the 17th century. Yeah. In 1814, the Constitution voted a separation of Norway from Denmark. And now that the 1814, Norway was independent from Denmark. Also union with Sweden. Nevertheless, the nation still remained Lutheran. During the period when Norway was united to Sweden, the life and structure of the Norwegian church was controlled by the Sweden Lutheran Church. Yeah, in spite of the fact that administrative base remained in its new capital, Christina, which is now known as Oslo. Yeah. So, now think about the European country. Now many places of Europe become a Muslim. They converted to be a Muslim, but originally it's Christian, and then their capital names, the city names, the Christian names, right? And now the Sweden. In 1523, Gustav Vasa fled from Denmark and was elected as a king in Sweden. He independent from Rome, and he relied on the Patri brothers. And Patri brothers originally were Lutheran disciples and came to Sweden to introduce a reform movement into Sweden. So if you read that, and you will see not really important much things, but about the same, it is to follow it. But as you see, what did you see? As we saw these things, what did you find it? Now the Protestant, the major stream of Protestant is a Lutheranism. Yeah. Yeah. And I talked about the what is the Augsburg Confession, and then yeah. It's one of the most important documents to come, the Protestant. Actually, that Philip Melanchthon, he wrote it. Melanchthon is one of the best disciples of Luther. Yeah. And I sent you that already. My class note. You will see that the Augsburg Confession, but I'm not going to deal with it because it's too much. And the important thing is that third and fourth delineate the doctrine of the deity of Christ and the justification by faith alone is confirm the roots of theology. Okay, Brother Albert, you have a question?
Yes, I have a question, Professor Kim. Thank you so much for the teaching. My maybe question or observation is, we see that even when Luther died, but his influence was still deeply felt. We see the Lutherans spreading,
yes.
The Lutheran spreading in these countries. And yeah, like France, Finland, Sweden, and all that. And I discover that it was because he had disciples, or he had students. Like one of them, when I read, I find, is it Hans Townsend? Yes, and maybe I directly connected that connect that to us today, that maybe why what we begin fails is because, one, maybe we don't study, and we also don't disciple. Just kind of an observation there.
Yes, this is a very important. Yes, that's why we start a Bible college too. Yeah, and then the one person cannot spread the gospel so many different places, right? But when you teach and train the people and send them, then they can do 100 times, 1,000 times more than you will do by alone. So that's what the Jesus did, right? The same way.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
Mm.
Jesus has many disciples. Besides the 12 disciples, he has 70 disciples too. And then at the time, we didn't count the woman. So include the woman, maybe he has several hundred disciples. But we think, oh, Jesus' disciple is only 12. No, 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 no. I don't think so. Because, read the gospel. Yeah, yeah. He sent the 70 disciples and two each, make a set. And this is very important. If you go by yourself, it's very hard to share the gospel. But if you have, set two people go together, the energy become like a triples, quadruples. Okay, brother David Camara.
Yes, thank you, Professor Kim. My question is, as we study this church history, we see churches that denominations coming out of different, following different reformers. But I've been thinking about the Methodists. I don't see them anywhere. How did they come?
Oh, yeah, I will spend some time about this Baptist, Methodist, and Presbyterians. Later on will come. Okay, yeah. So all come from the England. So that's why the England is very important country for the Christianity. Yeah. Okay. The Finland. Lutherans took hold in Finland, a possession of the Swedish crown. The Bishop Michael Alcola translated the Bible into Finnish, so they're laying down the basic of the language. Yeah. And when Finland was annexed by the Russia in 1809, a certain popular religious movement displayed a tendency to emotional extreme, which almost led the traditional church to exclude them from the ranks. From 1869 onwards, the Evangelical Lutheran Church of Finland was no longer considered to be a state church, but rather simply an established church. Because Russia has their Russian Orthodox, and Russia was later on become a Catholic country, right? So this Finland was influenced by the Russian Catholic too. Yeah. Chapter 10, Reformation in the Low Countries. Low Countries, the mouth of the Rhine River, 17 provinces there, belong to Emperor Charles V's father originally. Emperor Charles V was born and raised in that area. Nowadays, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg, I talked to you about it. Yeah, Benelux, because BENELUX. Yeah, Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg. And these small countries, they are very rich for like a century, 50 years ago, but now they are small. But anyway, this a very economically very advanced country before. Some of these countries land are below sea level, so they call the low country. So when the Europe low country means that, especially like a Netherlands, it's very low, right? Yeah, doesn't have mountains and just low. The political situation, emperor gave this land to his son to rule, but his son was born and they are raised in Spain. Later, why the Spain is, the emperor's children and family, they live in Spain was the strongest Catholic country, and then most of popes now come from the Spain at the time. Yeah. So later on, so that the emperor ruled these countries, Spain as well as Germany, and as well as these Low countries too. But later on, he became a king in Spain, Philip II, and Spain King Philip II put this land under Spain, the people in the land against it. Do you follow me? Yeah. Because that's Emperor Charles. Emperor Charles, he ruled as a emperor of Holy New Rome. And now this Spanish king, his son, inherited the land. So he tried to merge these countries, and they against it. Because of the location, even before the Reformation, this area had some Reformed theology by the theologian Erasmus, who was born and raised in this area. So when the Reformation moved to flow this area, the people willingly accepted it. Later on, Anabaptists moved down here from Switzerland, avoiding persecution, and influenced them. Yeah. Also, many Calvinist preachers came down and preached. So this land is getting changed from Lutheranism to Calvinism. And the emperor was stunned and proclaimed edict against the Protestantism several times. And his son, the Spanish king, put them down forcefully, but they revolt. The beggars, the Dutch rebels, and these Dutch rebels, they are so poor. That's why they called the beggars, the nickname. The war broke out between Spain and the 17 provinces of this, what are called the Netherlands, Belgium, and Luxembourg against the Philip II of Spain. They eventually were able to oust the Habsburg, their king's army, the family, Habsburg family, who was king of Spain. And in 1581, they established the Republic of the United Netherlands. The war continued in other areas, and the Dutch Republic was recognized by Spain and the major European powers in 1609. By the peace agreement of the Westphalia in 1648, the Dutch Republic was no longer part of the Holy Roman Empire, completely independent. Yeah. So see that all the wars, the major reason of these wars are not by economic situation, but religion. Chapter 11, Protestantism in France. Yeah. The Waldensians was influenced by the Reformation, and they affiliated with the Calvinist and other Reformed Christian groups of Switzerland, Germany, and France. Then they were in the persecution in the 17th century. How about the Huguenots? The Huguenots of the Reformed Church of France were followers of John Calvin and become the major Protestant sect in France. In 1598, the Edict of Nantes was declared by the French royal for the tolerance of Huguenots. It granted freedom of worship and legal equality for Huguenots within limits and ended the wars of the religion. So that the Edict of Nantes was very important in French church history. But in 1685, the King Louis XIV revoked the edict and killed the Protestants. So many people were killed and deported from French territory, and many of them moved to Switzerland for the freedom of their religion. Yeah. Lutherans formed the minority among overall French Protestants. Their congregations were strengthened by Lutheran immigrants, mostly settling in economically prosperous places. So that actually also Calvin come down to Franks and also influenced the people and the support of Franks, the Calvinists. So the Calvinists are getting stronger. However, by the peace of the Westphalia, conducting the war gave control of the Alsace-Lorraine to Franks. It was a German territory, actually the Roman Empire's territory, but this Alsace and Lorraine and there's belong to Franks. Yeah. So you know that during the World War II, when the Germans attacked the Franks, they annexed the Alsace and Lorraine first, because Alsace and Lorraine has a lot of coal mines. So they claim that this is our territory before, this kind of things. Yeah. But anyway, these are the Lutherans. So the now Franks, they have a lot of Lutherans too. And under the Napoleonic religious legislation of the 1801 and the 1802, also French Lutheranism was recognized, forming the Église de la Confession. Église, a church, right? Church, confession of the church, and the Augsburg. Established as a nationwide synod and body, it renamed the Evangelical Lutheran Church of France in 1906. Yeah. So again, if you have any question, please let me know. Chapter 12, the Catholic Reformation. In 15th century, many of the local Catholic priests were not well trained in Spain, and not just Spain, everywhere. Because of a lack of education and training, these local priests could not lead the people spiritually except to perform the mass. Yeah. So there were some voices for Reformation, for better train of these priests as well as clean the corruption. Because, the simony was very popular. Simony was, I talked to you before, the long time ago, right? In Acts, the Simon, he was a magician. And when the Peter came and then pray, and then, the Holy Spirit upon, and then probably they speak in tongues, or I don't know. But anyway, he sees that, oh, this is a really good magic. So he asked him, give him money and buy, right? But anyway, Peter cursed him out, but it was not ended there. He went to Rome and he showed the magic in front of the emperor, and he became a pretty good position. But from that idea, name come from. So simony means that even like 17th century, 18th century, very popular in America, in Europe, they buy the position. So lay people, if you pay the money and you become a bishop or your priest in the Roman Catholic Church, and that's very popular. So that the Catholic Church was really corrupted by this time. And then, yes, we must reform, otherwise we got trouble. Because some people, they cannot read the Bible. They just memorize and then just, the Latin words. And then, so not only the priest couldn't understand, but also all the congregation couldn't understand what they are doing. Yeah. So the priest must study harder, but it was largely ignored. Even the Luther started Reformation already, but still the Roman Catholic didn't do much things about it. And they just have tried to Luther down instead of reform themselves inside. The Reformation of Spanish Catholicism. Isabella, crown of Castile, met the crown of Aragon in 1469. This is a very important meeting because the Castile kingdom, the Queen Isabella, and the Aragon kingdom prince, they met each other and they married together. And these two countries, without any blood, they become one nation. And Isabella, she was very religious person, and she concerned about the religious corruption. And her husband also want to have a reformation of Catholic Church, but a different mind, actually different purpose. The Queen Isabella want to really reform the church, and then they remove the corruption of the church and clean and serve God more honestly and sincerely. But her husband, no, in the name of Reformation, he want to put all his enemies down, and he want to rule like this way. Yeah, so Isabella actually gave up her husband, and she tried to reform the church by herself. Yeah. So yeah, sometimes we the pastor's family, sometimes the wife is more sensitive than the husband, the pastor, right? So the wife sees that the need of the church, but a husband just to see how to control the church. Sometimes we do. We must admit that. So sometimes we must listen to wife. But here, Isabella, actually, her kingdom was bigger than her husband's kingdom. So she has a bigger voice. And now she did the reform by herself. And her husband cannot stop her. Yeah. She saw the Jews does not cooperate with Catholic Church and attract. They look like they are kind of lean to Protestantism. So she think that the Jews, they're enemies. And then anyway, she used the great scholar Jimenez, and they proclaimed the Alhambra Decree in 1492. You know that Alhambra, the palace, the memoir of the Alhambra Palace. Anybody play guitar? Oh, I love that. Anyway, we are in the music class, but it's a very famous Alhambra palace. But yeah, decree in 1492, which expelled the Jews from Spain. The Jewish Inquisition started. By this decree, many Jews were killed or joined the Catholic Church or had to move out from Spain. Later on, Queen Isabella appointed Jimenez as a cardinal in Spain, and now he had the power and money, so he devoted translation of the Bible, which started in 1502, and he completed in 15 years. Take 15 years to publish it. Yeah, think about it. Translate Bible is not easy, right? So he did the New Testament first, and then also he used a Septuagint, and then Targum Onkelos, which is the Targum, Midrash and Targum and Talmud. These are the translation of the Old Testament, right? Yeah. So Targum is one of them, and then they have several different interpretations. But he used a primary Jewish translation, Jewish Aramaic Targum, which is actually the Aramaic. They are the Jewish people, but they are Christians. Yeah, because Jesus. He speak Aramaic, right? Even he was a Jew, but still he's kind of an Aramaic culture. I mean, influenced by Aramaic culture. That's why he is speaking Aramaic. Yeah. So that he called the Peter. Peter is not, his name is Peter originally, right? His name is Kepha. Yeah, Kepha is the translate into Greek. It's a Peter. Polemics against the Protestantism. Even this Reformation work in Catholic Church, it is still supports the monarchy and the Catholic authority, including Pope's position as a highest position in the world. So the Protestant was a real threat. At the time, Catholic theologians were feared from the humanism and Protestantism. Yeah, the humanism just weakened the Pope's authority, church's authority, and Protestantism attacked the Catholic theology. So now the Catholic Church has two enemies to defend themselves. So the Queen Isabella put these two new movements down severely. No negotiation, just use of force and put down. Now new orders, even though monastic life was low ebb, yeah, at the time the monastery is also corrupted, and still many people took very serious in Spain. So Dominican monastery is a very influential. A man named Ignatius Loyola saw this and started a Catholic Reformation internally. Ignatius Loyola was born in Spain in 1491 and became a Spanish soldier. He thought that the humanism of the Renaissance with a reformed Catholicism would promote the economy, and it will attract the people who were already influenced by Lutheranism. So now this is a collaboration. Now I told you before, in monastery there are two streams. One is Francis Assisi, originally in Italy, Rome, Italy. The other stream started from Spain. This is Dominican. And Franciscan, the monastery, is the emphasis is a poor lifestyle, very simple lifestyle, and then also the prayers. And usually they live in the monastery, they don't go out. Now, of course, every year they go out and then share the gospel, and after like months and they come back. That's about it. The major place is in monastery, so they enjoy the monastic life. Now, the Dominican monastery, now this man Ignatius Loyola saw it. They it's already too much to put all people down. So instead they use them, like a Roman Catholic here. There's a frame, and to put all these people down here is almost impossible. This frame maybe break out. So instead of that, they put the people in frame, this dogmatic doctrine. So why don't we just make a bigger frame? Yeah, so why don't we collaborate with Lutheranism also? And then also do not put the people in the monastery all the time. Let them come out. And then don't teach only the Bible. Why don't we teach something else? So this monastic life is just like an enclosure, is like a kind of prison life. But now his idea was go out. And we lead the world, not just the faith, but also all the economy and politics also. Yeah. So it's a good idea, but think about this is a secularization, right? Yeah. So now church collaborate with the world. That's his idea. And that's what the Catholic did the first, more than the Protestant. So he found the Society of Jesuits in 1554 to bring back the converters from Protestantism. Yeah. So yeah, we allow certain, things so we can collaborate. We can still live together like that. So Jesuits combined the ideas of a traditional nomadic and monastic discipline with a dedication to teaching and preaching. The Jesuits ignored the local corruption, but appealed to the papacy to leading international movement to revive the Catholic Church in whole Europe. Yeah. At the time, so what here means is very important. Instead of focus on the you clean the corruption, why don't you promote the Catholic Church? Yeah. At the time, the people wanted a more emotional service, so the Jesuits emphasized a more emotional liturgical worship, including sacraments. Also, with the Dominican monastery movement, by the 17th century, the Jesuits had some of the greatest theologians in Europe, especially in France. The University of Paris was started by the Dominican and the Jesuit influence. Yeah, we must go out to the world, and we must lead the world, not just the theology, but other academic things and also techniques. Yeah. Yeah. So this is a really big reformation. Yeah. So now Catholic is changed, from try to be purity, but now they collaborate with the world theologically. The Jesuits taught not just Christianity, but almost everything, such as build schools and universities, design churches, and even help that produce a unique style of art and architecture, which is called the Baroque architect. Yeah. In addition, they were involved in professional professorship in the college, in politics and economy. So their identity is blended, but they influence the control the whole Spain and a part of the Europe. Yeah. So these Jesuits among the Roman Catholics, this Jesuit movement has become a mainstream in Spain and it spread widely. And then I told you before that the monastery was a kind of school because they do have all the rules and regulations, read the Bible, work, and you have to wake up sometime, you go to bed and all these kind of things, right? It's like a dormitory, right? But now they apply and they go out and actually they start a school and then they teach Bible as well as math and arts and politics, skills, techniques, science. And so now the priests, they started much more than before. Yeah. And their counter-reformation. So there's some of them are already like a Lutheranism, yeah, and then also influenced by the Lutheranism and the Calvinism, but they try to bring them back here. And it's a more attract their higher education, and then this, it'll attract the people. It's very often like money talks, we call it that, right? Money power, sometimes it's money overpower the faith many times. You see that, right? So that's why Jesus talked about money many times. Why? Because money is the strongest. Money has the most powerful things to threaten our faith. Yeah. Some people, they change their life by the money, right? Yeah. In Inquisition, found in 13th century, expanded its activities, and then heretics were subject to the punishment, to torture, and death. They applied the same measure to the Protestant and burned the Protestants in book and literatures. They also published the index to not to read and burn. Yeah, certain things you cannot read, so forbid certain books. So the press that they are Protestant. Either you join us because we have a lot of good things for you. We are different from original Catholics. We are changed. So why don't you come? If you don't come, we're going to kill you. Like that. In the meantime, the Council of Trent met in 1545 to institute concrete changes in policy and doctrine. Between 1545 and 1563, the council modified and then unified church doctrine. It abolished the numerous corrupt practice and abuse, and also gave final authority to Pope, and then do not allow the existence of the Protestant. The Reformation has split in Europe and shattered the religious unity. Even though Reformation Church suffered greatly by the Catholic Church, Reformation weakened the power of monarchies and eventually major forces to form the modern state of Europe. The Reformation also contributed to the establishment of the ethnic and individualism. Yeah. So even though Catholics threaten and then they forcefully execute the Reformation, but still the Reformation is spread widely and then become a mainstream. Slowly become a mainstream of the European language. Protestants interpret the Bible for themselves. This is a very, well, yeah, of course we interpret by ourselves, but this is a really very important issue. And Catholics does not allow you to understand the Bible by yourself, interpret the Bible yourself. You don't have a right. The priest must interpret for you. Yeah. And they face the salvation or damnation on their own. Yeah. So which means that the salvation is individual matter. Your father was a Christian. That doesn't mean that you automatically become a Christian and then saved. Yeah, it's an individual matter. The Reformation has also seen as an embalming out of all the capitalism. So, I mentioned about Max Weber before, right? Protestants found salvation without assistance. How? By hard work, thrift, sobriety, and work ethic. So Protestants fulfill the calling by the work ethic, and the Protestant work ethic and the individualist work ethic with. Yeah, I tell you about this, and then we'll have a break. What he meant is this, right? Here the calling is very important now. They are Catholics. If you want to be a priest, the parents usually send that the schools to be a priest, right? But now the Protestant, The calling is very important. The calling not only to be a priest, but a calling for everything. They apply the calling for many different fields. Like, for example, that's your work ethic. If you work in certain company, like for example, in America, if you like work in the Google and the Apple company, or well, you really enjoy it. Yes, so even though you work so hard, you overtime every time, even though doesn't pay overtime fee, but still voluntarily you work because you enjoy that. Why? Because God called you. And if you don't like that job, that means that God does not call you. So why don't you find another job? And also, because of that, if you really enjoy the work in that place, you are saved. That's why God called you there. If you don't want to work there, probably you are not saved. So the people, whether even though they don't like it, but they try to show that, yes, I really enjoy this job because I want to prove that I am saved. So that's Max Weber kind of criticized that, like a hypocrite, like that the Christians actually they use these people to make them work harder, like that. But anyway, the calling is applied not just to be a priest, but every places. If you really love each other, your mom and woman and your husband and you, or, whatever, then God really arranged that marriage. If you don't like each other, probably not. So the people, even they don't like each other, but they show up that, oh, we love you so much. I love my wife so much. My wife loves me so much, like this. Yeah. So it's this kind of extra passion. Try to show that. And then also, if you have a luxurious lifestyle, that's God doesn't like it. So you have to have a very modest, like a simple life. So you have more money, and company become richer. And then, so make long story short, he said that yes, capitalism started from there. But yeah, okay. Let's have a break. But before I have a break, if you have any question, please raise your hand.